Hello and welcome to CJB Games, Cameron here, and today I'm bringing you the next installment for the development of Groundskeeping, a first-person multiplayer hotel maintenance horror game. We're going to start with a very boring but extremely integral part of the game, saving and loading. Luckily, unlike my last game, each playing session is its own self-contained experience, meaning things like player health and pickups don't need to be saved at all. With that said, there are things like video options, audio volume and high scores that need to persist between opening and closing the game. I'll be using the same system I used for the last game, but a little bit simpler this time, with the player only saving as they go to the main menu and loading when they load up the splash screen. There aren't many variables to save as of yet, so this task won't take as long as it has done in the past, but it is good to get into place now and will save a lot of time later on. So now that the system is in place, I think it's time to add the first variable that will need saving, the scoring system. So this is how the scoring system works so far. Every minute the player is alive, they get a point. If they are killed by the enemy, they lose 10 points. If they escape through the pink orb, which will eventually be the player's van, they will get 5 points. And if they leave the game through the menu, their score isn't saved. If this score is higher than their previous score, it will show up as a new high score on the main menu. I think getting this to work now is a really good idea, as it adds a much needed friendly competition element to the game. So now that this is done, along with the save and load, I can safely say that's a lot of blueprint work and it's starting to hurt my head a little. I think it's working for now, but I imagine with some more playtesting I'll find a few bugs and issues with it, but hopefully nothing too major. Also of note, with everything in this game, a lot of it seems to work in the single player experience, but as soon as I add multiplayer to the mix and test there, a lot more issues are found as well. This is exactly why I've gone ahead and planned an impromptu play session with just another friend to see if I can find any major bugs. Now, I don't usually do mid-sprint play sessions, but due to multiplayer not working last time, I wanted to have a quick go to make sure the next big playtest I have to organise won't be a failure as well. So we'll take a quick break from this development to watch how that smaller play session went. Yep, says you're playing it. Now, can you use, once you're in, can you press Shift Tab and it comes up with the Steam overlay?
Yeah.
Sweet, so get out of that, so Shift Tab again. Then click Play with Friends.
Cool.
Can you see your name there?
Okay.
Sweet. So I'm going to host. Let's see if it
Few boxes.
transfers us both to the level. It might take you a bit longer than me, but we'll see.
I can see a chair.
Yep, that's me.
Yay.
And if you look down,
Nice.
if you look down as well, you'll
Oh,
find a
I'm also a
horrifying
chair.
discovery that you are also a chair. Okay, so this is basically it works. That's good then. So I know now that it's not going to be a complete disaster. That's kind of really all that we needed to check. Really, this is the only finished bit of like environment. Well, this is the starting bit of the environment
Yeah.
so far. Everything else is white box, but this is what it's eventually going to like art style look like.
Nice.
Should we exit there then? Well, actually, I can exit for you. Here you go. Can I kick you out? They just kick you.
Right, there we go. You did, yeah.
Yep, cool. Well, as you can imagine, I'm a lot happier now that things seem to be working a bit better in regards to the multiplayer. It's made me a lot more excited to do the 4-player session I planned at the end of this sprint. Now that a lot of the boring work is finished, it's time to create the next asset that will live in our playground. This next one will be one of those small weird bouncy horses you see on those big metal springs. It was a rather simple asset to create. There was nothing too complex about the 3D side of it at least. Being a lazy artist, I simply smoothed the vertices to create the body of the animal instead of sculpting it. I feel like I can get away with it here, as the body of the toy only has to resemble a horse, and only has to be an impression of it. Adding bumps to the metal part at the end really solidified the believability of the toy, and added some much needed detail. And with that, it's time to start the texture for it. This was a lot of fun to create, as it had both metal and wood elements, with a hint of worn paint here and there. I was originally planning to have the two toys be a slightly different colour to one another to give a bit of variety, but for dev time's sake, I decided against this and we'll just go for the one variant. Once the texture was complete, I imported it into Unreal and placed them into the playground. I then added a few weeds around them to give this overgrown aesthetic that this first area has. Finally, it's time to begin creating the sandpit for the playground. I think this will be the last part of the playground that I need to add, and it will be by far the easiest part to create. Its boxy design makes it easy to model, and it doesn't have that much detail to it. Once the edges of the wood were beveled, I added a plane that could act as the last remnants of the sand. I subdivided and smoothed out the sand until I was happy with the look of it. With modelling done, I placed it into Unreal, then added some of the nails I created earlier to the edges of the sandpit. Now with that, it's time to texture. The wooden section was easy, as it's something I've done many times before, but the sand was a little bit more difficult. I wanted to go for a little bit of a green look with it, as in my head the foliage had mixed with rain on top of the sandpit and sort of bled into the once pure sand. One unfortunate thing to note was this black line that appeared around the edge of the sand. I tried to get rid of it, but in the end settled for it being a little bit less visible than it once was. I don't really think it will be noticeable in the game when people play it, so I shouldn't worry too much about it. Now that it is textured and in Unreal, I'll add the weeds to make the green sand make a bit more sense. I also added some weeds to the fence beside it to make the encroaching foliage a bit more believable in its takeover of the area. Well, I think that does it art-wise for the playground area, and with that, the end of the second sprint. I quickly want to edit the sprint for next time as well while I'm here. I added a few more things to it, including pausing in solo play that would pause the game fully, players' ability to crouch, and the next art area, which will be the intro road, to be created. With those things added to the next sprint, I think I can happily say it's a good amount of work to get done next. And that's it. Thank you for watching, guys. The next video will be a playtest that involves 4 people to see how it runs and see if there are any bugs. And then after that, we begin working on the third sprint. If you enjoyed this, then consider subscribing to keep up to date with the continuation of this project. And if you want to support my work further, consider getting my previous game, a side-scrolling first-person survival horror game available on Steam now.